Thanks for the introduction, Chelsea, and thanks for inviting me to be here. Although I was supposed to be doing this live, my travel plans got interrupted, so I truly appreciate your patience, and it's an honor to be here and be able to talk with you. So before I dive into what I've learned, I'd like to talk about you some. So let's go ahead and share my screen. So I want to talk about you, the type of person who joins an organization to improve things and make a difference in your community. You know, we all have chaotic lives. None of us have it figured out. Yet you made a choice to allocate some of your time and your resources to making a difference in your community. And that means a lot. So what type of change do you want to make as an organization and an individual? And is the strategy and actions that you're using, are they making the vision that you want, creating that vision? So more than 100 years ago, Junior League founder Mary Harriman said, "We have the responsibility to act, and we have the opportunity to conscientiously act to affect the environment about us." And each of you, each of us are affecting the environment around us. And so I'm here to ask you if you want to create more of an impact from your actions. And if that's a big resounding yes, then you're in for a treat, because I'm going to show you how to use your focus to create an exponential change that reverberates through the community and beyond. Using focus in this way allows Junior League to create an impact in a measurable way. And these same tools, same techniques can be applied to every area of our lives, our career, our health, our relationship with others, and specifically our relationship with ourselves. So let's get started. So I'd like to start with a story of how a pediatrician for 20 years became a world-class problem solver. Well, it started right here in Huntington, seeing patients day in and day out. And like most healthcare providers, I just wanted to help, just wanted to add value. And what I saw was devastating. I saw child after child, depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, not believing in themselves. It was horrible. And I knew that this is the problem I wanted to tackle. So what I discovered was the power of focus. And focus helped me to help so many families to create peace in their homes, to improve their connections as a family with them in their home and with their community, align goals in their home, truly creating healthier, happier children, which, come on, that's what we all want, right? And it's also helped me in every area of my life. On a personal note, I used focus to go from a struggling single mom to having a wonderful partner and a wonderful blended family. So today, I want to take a closer look at focus so that Junior League can create the exponential change, the exponential impact that you all want. So what is focus? Focus is the center of our attention. We have information constantly coming in. How do we take that attention to create what we want? And in your organization, you are an organization of women who are committed to promoting volunteerism and developing the potential of women and improving communities through effective action and leadership of trained volunteers. It's wonderful. So how do you use focus to have the biggest, most sustainable impact you can? That's what we want to look at today. So with the clients I work with, I start out by asking them, what are their priorities? So right now, if I looked at you and said, what are your priorities, both personally and professionally and with Junior League, I'm guessing that list would be quite long. So I usually ask people to write out their priorities. And then I have them reverse engineer what their priorities actually are. So do they match up? And I have them do this by taking a look at what they do each day for numerous days in a row, and then using a financial calculator in order to look to see where their money goes. Because at the end of the day, how you spend your time and your money, that equals your priorities. We have a limited amount of resource, and figuring out how to use those resources in order to really focus on our priorities to make the biggest impact is key. And I'd also like to share something else. In the early 1900s, when Junior League was founded, the word priorities wasn't even a word. I'm serious. The word was actually priority. It didn't become plural until after the start of Junior League. So it's easy to understand how our actions get diluted down, watered down, instead of truly focusing, honing in on that change we really want to make. One of my favorite quotes on focus is by the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs. And he says, people think focus, it means saying yes to the thing you're going to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas there are. You have to pick carefully. I love that. Saying no can be hard for so many people. They consider that almost selfish. Aren't you supposed to help everyone who asks? Well, not really. That's how we end up solving other people's issues and other people's problems without truly making the dent and the impact we're craving. That word selfish, I love to share this. In Mandarin Chinese, they actually have two words for selfish. One means hoarding, greedy, and cruel. The other means doing which is beneficial to you. And in English, we've pushed those two together in this one word. So we'll hear selfish saying no and want to push away from that. But in reality, as we learn to use our focus to benefit ourselves, we have more that can overflow to others. Many of us run around multitasking constantly. I know that for a long time, I thought I was the queen of multitasking. And then I felt like, why aren't I getting the results I need? And that might be in your organization or your personal life. And what we understand about the brain is that no one actually multitasks. We're actually always switching between tasks, even really small ones like chewing gum and walking. You're still switching between them, but they're such easy tasks for the brain that you would never notice. When we tend to notice is when we're doing higher level type of tasks. Say you're writing and someone is trying to talk to you. So you're trying to listen and you're trying to take notes and you end up writing what they say and you're like, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. That's actually how the brain works. The brain is trying really hard to switch between tasks. And it's much more efficient if we focus on one task at a time. And in our busy world, that's so difficult. As a doctor in my office, I would be trying to chart and people would come in and ask me questions. And I was going between things and thinking, wow, why aren't I better at this? Well, Hopkins did a great study on what it actually costs us to be distracted. And I could see this in my own life when for my company, Own Your Focus, I would be writing a post or, I'd be working on a talk and my kids would come and be like, Mom, I can't find my shoe. So I'd jump up, go help them find their shoe. It would only take a few minutes, but wow, it seemed like I wouldn't be able to get anything done that day. Well, turns out Hopkins showed that when the true cost of distraction is the length of distraction, so me going to get the shoe for 5 minutes plus 23 minutes and 15 seconds, that's what it takes to get back into that flow of focus. That is the true cost of distraction. So when we change our expectation that we should be able to jump between these high-level tasks, these high-level problems, and do a bunch of small things in between, we're actually not giving our brain the credit it deserves to say, wait a second, our brain loves to focus. Let's go ahead and feel focus. Right now, I'm going to invite you to do an exercise with me where we're going to breathe in through our nose, expand our lungs, and breathe out. We're just going to take a few together, but I'm going to have you slow down and really focus on these few breaths. So go ahead and close your eyes. Deep breath in your nose. Feel it come through, expand, feel it fill up your lungs and back out your nose. A few more of those. Breathe in, filling your lungs. Back out. If your thoughts are jumping around, bring them back to your breath. And out. Meditation, yoga, it's just such healthy exercises. It's such healthy exercises for us because our brain craves focusing and just slowing down. Yet many times we're rewarded in this world for running around. So practicing slowing down and practicing our focus, again, whether it's for an organization of slowing down, looking, or whether it's personally. And we can see the lack of focus in so many areas of our life. Like, for example, when you can't find your keys, but you're the one that put them there, or you're looking in the fridge and what you're looking for is right in front of you. That is, our mind is so used to having information continually flow in, and our brain has to filter it down. We have something like 1 million data points that comes in per second, and our brain has to filter it down to 50 seconds. Magic actually exploits this fact. It knows that our brain can't look everywhere at once. And so it's trickery of hand, because it knows that we're going to be focused one place and not another. And so understanding that it's not something wrong with our brain, it's just how our brain works, helps us to figure out how to use our brain, our focus, in a way to achieve what we want. And in Junior League, when you are tapping in to develop the potential of women and improving community through effective action and leadership, focus is incredibly necessary. So I like to talk about your focus remote. What actions do we get to control? And the focus remote is just an easy way to remember what I actually control. For most of us, we spend so much time trying to control things we're not in control of, other people's opinion, the weather, certain aspects of politics. But in actuality, there's only 3 things that we control. We control our thoughts, our beliefs, which are long-held thoughts, and our actions, what we do. And the more we realize that these are the only 3 things we're in charge of, the better we can focus on them and create the change we want. And when our focus is in the past, continually reminiscing and looking over things without taking action, that's actually depression. When our thoughts are continuously worrying about the future without strategizing the steps and instead just worrying, that's the anxiety. And allowing ourselves to be in the present moment, truly see where we are, what obstacles are in front of us, is an incredible opportunity that we're afforded. Because we don't have to solve these problems. We get to solve these problems. And that's so exciting. But being this optimistic in times like right now can be difficult. Many people look around the world and say, oh my gosh, look at everything going on. And it feels so overwhelming. At every one of the talks I do, I ask, do you think the world is getting better or worse? Just in general, do you think the world is getting better or worse? And the vast majority, and I wish I was there in person, I would love to see your comments, but just ask yourself that. Do you think in general, the world is getting better or worse? Well, from the people I speak with, the vast majority say it's getting worse. And it turns out the world is not getting a little better. The world is getting dramatically better. And let me go ahead and show you some data to support that, because it doesn't mean every single area, just in the absolute majority of the cases, the world is getting better. And by knowing this, we can harness this to use our focus to figure out how and why we're going to make the next move. So This graph is awesome. It is the murder rate. So on the y-axis is homicides per 100,000 per year. And on the x-axis is back from 700 years ago. Normally when we're watching the news, they're looking at last year versus this year. And it's so hard to make any discernible conclusion from that, regarding big periods of time of what's really going on. But when you look at this, the murder rate over the past 700 years, we live during one of the safest times ever known in human history. And that's not how we tend to look at this. The next one, let's take a look at 4,000 years ago. We're talking an average age of 18 in 2000 BC. What about when Junior League was founded, 1900s? The average age of life expectancy was 50. And now we are up in the 80s. Like, that's incredible. Here's another one. I'm just going to hit through a few of these. I know we have a short period today, but here's oil spills from 1980 to, I think it goes to 2016, battle deaths per 100,000 people. Look at that back in 1950s. Now here, children dying before their 5th birthday. So like 200 years ago, that is really not that long ago, considering people, our current scientific understanding is Homo sapiens are about 200,000 years old. Like, that is 44% down to 4%. That doesn't mean we can't get better. We can, but that's pretty freaking incredible. Let's keep going. Here are deaths from disaster, 100,000 per year, just dropping down. Hunger, 28% to 11%. What about ozone? When I was growing up, all you heard about was all these things depleting the ozone layer. And these are the substances that are depleting, and how people have dove in, really solved it, really reduced it. Again, plenty more to be done, but things are better than most people realize. And so the big question is, why don't we realize that the world is getting so much better? Because truly, we live during the most abundant time ever known. The fact that we have electricity, running water, even 100 years ago, some of the wealthiest people alive don't have what we have, access to information, like these incredible connections that we're able to have today over the internet, me sharing this presentation. None of this was available even a short time ago. So why don't we know? Well, again, we talked about humans being about 200,000 years old. Throughout that time, if you're walking down the road and off to your right is a beautiful waterfall and flowers, and off to your left is a tiger hiding behind the bush, everyone who looked right, they did not make it. Our species has been trained to continually scan the environment, looking for that lion, looking for the threat. What's wrong out there and what's wrong in us? There's actually a part of our brain called the amygdala, that's always looking for it. I love this quote: bad news sells because the amygdala is always looking for something to fear. So true. And, most of us are so busy trying to feel valuable and feeling like this overwhelming responsibilities on us that we don't have time to look up to go, what is going right? And learning to use our focus remote really is a skill that we get to learn to use in order to create that change we want. So how do we know if our focus is making a change? Well, that's where the system that I use, whether it's with an individual or a corporation, comes in. The same system can be used to tackle obstacles in a way that helps us chip away measurably. So this is what the system looks like. It might look deceptively simple, but it is so powerful. So it starts with current situation. That's why knowing where your focus are and what your priorities is so important. What is our current situation? What does the leadership in our community look like? How are women tapping into their potential? Then the desired situation. What do we want? What is the change your organization or you individually want to make very clearly? And then we get to come in and say, okay, what's a problem standing in the way? asking as many questions as we can to understand that problem, then hypothesize solutions together, and then test. Look at those results and continue to repeat. One of the big problems people make with this system is that they expect changes to be made in a linear type way. Meaning, okay, we use this once, we go through that system, current, desired, define, problem, hypothesize, test, and we're just going to move right up. Well, that's not really how it works, because that's not how learning works. Learning, whether it's learning to read or learning to crawl. Here's a baby barely moving. Okay, starting to crawl, just moving around, up, walking, and then full-blown running. That is the same way learning works for Beyonce. Beyonce was, barely singing, barely dancing, and moves right up that curve, but in an exponential type of way. And when we understand this exponential curve, we are able to use it and really grow from it. And I'll tell you why I brought up Beyonce here in a minute. But so each of those individual blocks is defining the problem with questions, hypothesizing, and then testing. And testing requires failure. In all of Beyonce's performances, at the end, she actually goes back and watches them, critiques what she and others in the performance have done to take notes, to keep moving up that curve. So many of us are afraid of failure. We've been taught that failure is bad. Well, failure is the way to make an exponential impact when you know how to fail correctly. I think Google is such a cool company, and Google knows this. Google understands the power of failure. They have this sign hanging on one of their walls: fail fast and cheap, fail often, fail in a way that doesn't kill you. Many of us just get bogged down with failure and don't know how to turn it into the stairs in order to create that change we want. Elon Musk, my picture's right in the center, we'll move that up. Elon Musk, founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and many other companies, says, I take the position that I'm always to some degree wrong, and the aspiration is to be less wrong. And that is a mantra I use every day in my life. My job is not to show up here with you and be like, I have all the answers. My job is showing you the system that myself and my clients use in order to be less wrong, in order to move towards solutions. Because the better you guys do, the better we all do. And as we keep going through this system, we really get to create exponential change together. So, thousands of years ago, our early ancestors worked in small groups, tribes between 1 and 200 in size, working together and communicating. And now, as a species, we are attempting to communicate between almost 8 billion people. Wow. The fact that we're even doing as well as we are is really impressive. And it's easy to look at these problems and feel overwhelming because there still are plenty. But we get to dive into these problems, and we get to learn to communicate and work together as 8 billion. And that requires 3 things. One is the system we just described above, a way to systematically, measurably work through problems. Another is transparency. The internet has allowed us a flood of information. Unfortunately, though, it's very difficult to tell what is true or false because we don't have the transparency needed. Fortunately, Web 3.0 and blockchain technologies are coming in, and they're on the forefront of creating transparency of information through the internet. And that's so exciting. And the third thing we need is clear incentives. Right now, most of our capitalistic structure has monetary incentives, which has many benefits and many drawbacks. With Junior League, you have clear incentives. Your incentives are to develop the potential of women and improve the community. And when we have these clear incentives, we can look at them with transparency and work it through a system together to really create that impact. And as our world continues with the interconnectivity, as we create a sustainable exponential impact here. It truly reverberates. And using focus in this system starts with you. As you learn to own your focus, use your focus remote to create a life you crave, you have more to give to those relationships and more to give to the community and more to give to the world. And that is so exciting to me. And one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Peter Diamandis, he PhD, MD, who has created the X Prize, Singularity University, and many other wonderful businesses, companies, has one of the best quotes I've ever seen on the hope that I know I have for the future, that we get to create together. He says, we are racing towards a world of abundance, and we are going to be increasing the quality of life for everyone on this planet. The world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. I love this because when we see these problems in our community and our society, we get to create a sustainable way to feed back on itself, solving it together. And we get to see the things that matter and the things we can control and find that exact spot, whether it's Junior League or you individually, to really put that focus, strategize, and create that change that we're craving. Focus really is a superpower. So thank you so much. I can't wait to hear back from you and collaborate and really make the connections in order to create that exponential impact so we can have that leadership effect in our community that reverberates around the world in an exponential way. Thank you so much.